Hello, hello. Hope you guys got, well, you lost an hour of sleep, but think of that extra hour of daylight. We don't do that here till Easter, so that is why it is 8 a.m. for you guys on the West Coast, 11 on the East. And so we don't change till Easter. And then the beginning of April, we'll go back to the 7 a.m. West start time. But I wanted to start in here today, and I'm so excited we have a signal at the moment, inside of Sainte Etienne du Mont, one of my favorite churches, because this is going to be all about some amazing women in Paris history. And I can't do that without talking about the OG, Sainte Genevieve. So the Saint Etienne du Mont is dedicated to Saint Stephen. I've come in here a few times, but Sainte Genevieve is here depicted in these windows, and I love this. So you have in that window, the very center, the Church of Saint Etienne du Mont, and then to the right of that, that was the Abbey of Sainte Genevieve. Nothing is left of that but the tower, which I'll show you outside. And there is her reliquary back there. And then at this window, this set of windows, it tells her story. And up there, I love the stained glass windows, and these are just exceptional. So she was born in the year 420, and the very first window there is her as a child. The second window is her first miracle that happened in 430 when she cured her mom of her blindness. The third is when she was sent to Paris, and she, under Saint Martin, he put her in charge of the virgins of the church. The fourth one there is her dream that she had of heaven and hell. Can you guys hear me? Make sure you guys. Oh, there's a few bonjours. Hello, outside of windows, and these are kind of in the wrong order because the one on the left is 464, when the siege of Paris, when she went to save the people by getting bread. She took a boat down to Brie. Hi, Angela. And then the next one is her gathering people on the banks of the Seine at 451 to pray to keep Attila the Hun away. And then the third window is the lighting of the candle at the Basilique Saint Denis being built. And then the last one is of her death, which was January 3rd, 512. And so there's another reliquary up here. And a few weeks ago, well, I guess more than a few weeks ago, it would have been in January, I was going to a church to see a classical concert just not far from here. And her reliquary went by. And so they used to do that in that first window. I'm going to come outside. So that I used to take her reliquary, which is the first window that I showed you that has the two churches in it. And that is where they used to take her reliquary down from here, down to Notre Dame, and do a special mass when they wanted to do everything from stopping floods, which we could use right now, to disease. The king was sick, anybody in the royal family was sick, and they take her reliquary and march it down to one day on that Sunday, closest January 3rd. It went right by, and I was so excited to see it. So here you see that's the tower that's depicted in the stained glass window. That is all that's left of the Abbey of Sainte Genevieve, and it was destroyed much longer than when this church was here. So, and it was finally, the final bits of it was destroyed when they built this road. So this is Rue Clovis, and it was totally destroyed. And that is the Lycée Henri IV, very, very prestigious school. And it leads over here to Pantheon. But I do love that you have the streets. The street on the side street past this on the left is Clotilde, and we're going to see a little bit more about her down in the Jardin de Luxembourg. But I love that these streets, because they were all buddies, which I'll tell you about in the garden. One day the door was open during the school day, and I went marching on in there to go check it out, and the security guy came running after me, telling me to stop. But you could see on the front, so the church is dedicated to Saint Etienne, Saint Stephen, because that was the first church on the Ile de la Cité, which is where Notre Dame is now. But my girl's right there. Here is, she's normally, a lot of times you see her depicted with a lamb. Older depictions of her has her with that candle from Saint Denis. But we're going to walk over here, tell you about two amazing ladies over here in the Pantheon. Pantheon, as you of course know, was built for social, and that was built because of the pledge that Louis XV made to, if he survived, he was in Metz, and he was very, very sick, and they had been bleeding him for 10 days with leeches, and then he said if he survived this, he'd make a grand church to Sainte Genevieve. So it took, though, until Louis XVI, so in 1764 is when they laid the first stone here. It was finally finished just before the revolution. Then the revolution happened, and my girl got kicked out of here because they wanted something dedicated to bury and dedicate to the great men of France. I don't know why this thing is freaking out. Hi, Paige. Hey, Rox. Susie, Angela, thanks so much for being here, guys. And Elizabeth. And Cheryl. Hi, guys. Thanks so much for being here. Never late, Peg. So, but look at what's over here. Okay, so 2 weeks ago we did the little video from Notre Dame, which I was going to do that every few months, but I think I'm actually going to do it every month because things are changing so rapidly. So we'll have to do one in a couple weeks. But look, okay, so from here, I love this little spot because from here, there's the towers way down there of Notre Dame. Go down a little, see them there. But then look, just a little bit further. Why is this? Can you see it? So I was down here on, I think it was Friday. I walked down here because more of the spire is showing. Oh, hello, Susan, my number one Gold Star A student. But look at that. You can see. Look at the spire. So there's only a little bit left of it to actually be unveiled by the scaffolding. And it's happening so fast. I bet it's going to be within the next 10 days, 2 weeks. So what is showing down below is actually just the raw wood. So they will put English paper in between there and some copper, and then they put the lead on there. The lead and everything's been shaped off site. They bring it in, so that's why it's going pretty quickly. And then they'll start doing the wood and the copper, and then the lead on the actual roof. So, oh my gosh, it's so exciting every time I go down there. And they've just installed, just the other day, they installed some of the sculptures, the stone sculptures back that had to be repaired because they were destroyed in the fire, or just not, just in such bad shape that they had to come off. But it is so exciting. So back here at the Pantheon, it's actually, Angela so nicely messaged me asking how the weather was because it's been so cold and wet every Sunday. We've done this, but still a chilly today, but not that chilly. And thankfully, it's not raining. So why are you yelling at me? Okay, so here we are at the Pantheon. And the Pantheon just recently had the induction of yet another member that deserves to be there. But today we're talking about the ladies. So do you guess who the very first lady that was inducted because of her own merits. So she was an amazing woman that not only had the first Nobel Prize awarded to a female, the first Nobel Prize awarded to a husband and wife. She was the very first woman president of the University of Paris, and the first woman inducted because she was amazing. And that is Marie Curie. She and her husband Pierre were put here into the Pantheon in 1907. And she is there down below. That there was a woman that was put in here before, and she was put in here because of her husband was brought in. So she kind of doesn't completely count. But then Bisak Munushin, he was the one that was inducted a few weeks ago. He and his wife, you see her up there, beautiful woman behind him, he was killed with his 19 resistance fighters during World War II. But this is about the ladies today. So, of course, this was supposed to be created for my homegirl. And it was originally a church to Sainte Genevieve. And then 2 years after she was inducted, she was so rudely removed and put over in Saint Etienne du Mont. So it is to the grand men. So there's only 6 women in here. And the other one is my other favorite, which I have not done a podcast about, or I haven't done one about Marie Curie either. So I need to do that. But the other woman that is here, that is, I think, one of the other greatest women in French history, next to my girl Rose Valland, which, if you have not signed the petition to get her in to the Pantheon, and you are at home and you are watching this on your computer, open up a tab, go to ClaudineHemingway.com, scroll down, sign the petition right now. Pretty please, because we have a long way to go to get Rose Valland into the Pantheon, but she definitely deserves to be there, and I would love it if we could all be a part of that and making that happen. So go and sign that today. If you're watching this later on YouTube, I'll put the link down below. So please, please, please sign it. But the other woman who I love dearly that is here is Simone Weil. Simone Weil was born in 1927. She was the youngest of 4 children born in Nice. And she, on May 30th, 1944, she was arrested with the rest of her family. She, on April 13th, was sent to Auschwitz. She was number 78651, and that number is very special to her, even though that was a horrible number that the Nazis tattooed on her arm. But she always proudly displayed that, and she fought for deportees' rights. For the survivors, she did everything that she could to remember that. But she was also an amazing woman for other women, because she worked. She was in the Ministry of Justice, Health. She was also the first woman president of the European Parliament. And under her tutelage, she over time got it so that women could have contraception. She also did it so the right to an abortion was added, and just recently they put that into the French Constitution. So they've been saying it's the first country, but it's actually the second country. But it's pretty amazing, and we owe that to her. So this isn't political about where you are, but she did that, and she's freaking amazing. When she returned in 1945 on May 23rd, she had passed her baccalaureate. She, the same year, enrolled in the Sciences Po, and she just was a really amazing, kick-ass woman that did so much. And she was one of the immortals, and she was put into for the academies, and every member of the academy that is there at the Institut de France, every one of them as the inductee, they have a special sword made, and her sword on the handle has 78651 in it. But she is definitely one that I've wanted to for a very long time do a podcast about, but I love her so much. I want to probably spend 3 months researching it so I could get as much of the information about her in there. They just opened on the 8th, on International Women's Day, an exhibit at the Archives dedicated to her. So I will definitely be going to see that. I can't wait. But she is amazing. If you don't know who she is, 2017 they inducted her into the Pantheon. Go online, YouTube, and see and look it up. It was an amazing ceremony. Anytime they induct people into the Pantheon, it's a pretty moving experience. Of course, other people that are there is symbolically Josephine Baker. She was the last one that was before in 2021, I believe. And then you have General de Gaulle's niece is in there because she was a fighter for the resistance, and a few other ladies. But if you have not been to the Pantheon, definitely go, because the inside, even though they kicked out our girl Genevieve, the inside of it, the murals on the walls, on half of it are dedicated to her story. Massive murals. There is she also has in there, there's one whole wall dedicated to Jeanne d'Arc, another one of my favorite ladies. It's also in there. And then Saint Louis, Saint Denis, Charlemagne. But we're going to walk down Rue du Flot and pop into the, oops, what happened? Sorry about that. Is everybody still there? I don't know. This thing is definitely having some issues today. It's not raining. It's always this thing. But we're going to head down into the garden, which there are a few trees in bloom. Hi, Chrissy. So some of the tulip magnolia trees have, in the Northwest, we call them tulip trees because they aren't exactly like magnolia, but there was one right by the Medici fountain, which the back of it, another one of my favorite ladies, Leda and the Swan fame. That fountain on the back of the Medici, kind of my favorite hidden one, this now is not so hidden, is being restored and cleaned. So it's got some scaffolding around it. But last night, or yesterday, I was on my way to go see the Architecture Museum again, which I'll tell you about. And the statues at the end of the bridge leading to the Eiffel Tower were already being uncovered. So there is a lot of scaffolding. There is a lot of work going on. Of course, a lot of it is for the Olympics, but a lot of it is just the general Paris upkeep. If you have buildings of a certain age and historic, they have to clean the facade every 13 years. With COVID, about a year and a half of that, things were kind of stopped and delayed. And so it's kind of just a big intersection of fun between the Olympics and the general upkeep. So, but this is why we have amazing, gorgeous things here that go back to the 16th, 17th, the 18th century, because they do have upkeep and they do take care of them. So, but some of it's pretty quick because some of it's just some cleaning. One thing I have noticed, for some reason, I feel like my sense of smell is heightened, but I think I had allergies. But there's a lot of people that wear a lot of perfume and cologne. I love this paper store, which give me a paper journal store, and I'm in heaven. I found in there clear, hold on for this one, clear Post-its. Oh, unfortunately, every pen I use on it smears, but let's go this way. It's always so crowded. Um, but they are pretty awesome. We have one of those perfect Haussmannian vistas here. Rue Soufflot. leading up to the Pantheon with the perfect example of creating these wide avenues to keep people from standing up against the Emperor Napoleon III. We're going to head out over into the garden. Oh, good, the entrance is open. So the sign over here with this lovely sports bra on it, I'll show you in a minute, is for the new exhibit that's going to be open at the Luxembourg Museum. The Paris museums are pretty much putting in everything. The new exhibits that are opening all have, a lot of them have to do with sports. The Louvre, the one at the Louvre opening in a bit is also about sports, as in like the Greek faces, Etruscan pieces. But this one is design and sport with a sports bra. So I'm not sure how those are going to go. But I will, of course, go see them all. We're going to come in here to this side of the Luxembourg and go and visit this fantastic woman with a man's name. Can you guess who? Here's another piece of trivia that you might be able to guess. She is the only one. She is the very first woman that was able to make a living off of her writing. And this was in the 19th century. Do you have a guess? Look at this. Look at all the yellow flowers. We're a couple, what are we, 10 days away from spring? 10, 11 days away from spring? Oh, this way. That is right, Angela. You win a gold star. Sure, Sam. So she's right over here. The funny thing is about this statue is that she is dressed as a woman. And a lot of people know Chorsin as because she dressed like a man. Look at this. The pretty flowers. Hopefully in a couple of weeks we'll be able to also have a pretty flower tour. Look at that. So here she is. She was actually born Amandine Lucia Dupin, 1804. Here she is. Georges. She was married quite young. The guy was a total cad. He was sleeping with everything that would walk, every woman that crossed his path, including any of their staff. She had quite a bit of money in her family, and so he basically was just spending all of her money. And so she got sick of it. She came to Paris. She started writing with another man, and then she broke off on her own in 1831. She wrote a book, but because women could not be published, she wrote under the name Georges Sand. So the dressing up in men's clothing was because her husband was basically spending all of her money, and men's clothes were less expensive. And back then, you had to actually have a permit from the police, from the prefecture, to actually dress and wear pants. And as you know, from a few months ago, if you saw on my Instagram, they just got rid of that law like 18 years ago. But yeah, so if you were here in Paris wearing pants, could have gone to the clink. But it was just easier for her and cheaper for her to wear men's clothes. But as you see, that statue has her dressed as a woman, not wearing pants. And another woman, Rosa Bonheur, another amazing woman. She also was known for wearing men's clothing, but she did get the permit because she said it was for sanitary reasons because she was an artist. She's known for painting amazing, amazing, gorgeous paintings of animals. Um, and she'd hang out in the fields and in barns all day. So she wanted to be able to wear pants. Look at this. I do love this time of the year when you could see all the way through here and see all the statues. So we are going to now visit a few of the 20 illustrious women of French history. I've done a podcast. So a majority of these people we'll talk about, except for Marie and Simon. I've done a podcast episode about. So I will put links to that on my Patreon so you could listen to each one of them. So if you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out, sign up, and help support the channel. And you can learn more about them. But I've done 2 episodes talking about each of them. So you could actually even put that episode on, come up here and walk through the park, and I'll tell you about each and every one of them. So there's two episodes. One's at the east side and one's at the west side. So there's 20 illustrious women. They were added under Louis Philippe. So as you know, another illustrious woman. I was almost going to say fantastic. That's big. That might be a little wishy-washy. Marie de Medici. So Marie de Medici is the one who created this garden. She purchased this after her husband was killed in 1610, and she wanted something that reminded her of growing up in Florence in Italy. And so she had this palace built. It took quite some time. She never saw it fully finished because she and her son were always at a battle with each other. But she's here in the garden too. But when Louis Philippe later over time, under Napoleon III, they would cut up part of the garden, bring in the fountain, the Medici fountain that's just straight away down there. They bring it in, cut it up to add the Rue de Medicis, and then they extended the garden, and then he also added more statues. So there's 107 statues in here. Pretty much most of them are dedicated to somebody or a lot of artists, writers. You have these 20 amazing women. The oldest ones are the ones that are down below around the basin. Those are the antique ones that date back to when she was here, right after she had the garden. And so these 20 illustrious women were picked by Louis Philippe. Some of them, Mary Stuart, a lot of people know her. Straight down, this next one, that is Mary Stuart. And the one past her, always, that's Sainte Genevieve. We're going to go this other direction. But he added all of these women here. And some of them, you wonder why. And I have a book that's completely dedicated to all of them in French. But it doesn't say why for some of them. Here's a statue I love, the mask seller. And we just did the podcast episode 2 weeks ago. It was all about that statue and all of those men. And I know it's not, it's a man. And this is about the women. But, I can't resist right there. The guy in the middle, that handsome chap. Eugène Delacroix. You know him, you love him. He's your favorite. He was born on my birthday. I was born on his birthday, I guess I should say. So I'm tying it to me, so then it's still about women. So here's a couple of the statues. So this one is one that I love to show people when I come into the garden. Look at this. It's just like, oh, the light at this time. And it's so happy it's not raining. But this woman here, so of these 20 women, 2 of them are a little iffy. One of them definitely is very iffy. This woman right here was not a real person. So this is Clémence Isor. She goes back to the 14th century. She was they found this statue of a woman that had been in a church, and it got put into a courtyard. And the courtyard was where down in Toulouse, where they had a competition, and they still do this for poetry. And so the winner either got first and second place got a gold or a silver flower. So it was a flower they painted, and they ended up having that she was this statue of this unknown woman in their courtyard. And so some of the poets started writing poems about her, and they named her. And so when Louis Philippe chose the 20 women, this is one of the women he chose. And I love the fact that also The little key there is there's no date on her. But isn't she fantastic? But I love that she wasn't even a real person. How about that? So here we have here, this is who they like to call the Grande Mademoiselle, the Duchess of Montpensier. She was the granddaughter of Henri Cat, another one of my favorites, and she would inherit this entire garden from Marie de Medici, the garden and the palace. But she had kind of a sad life. She was married off, and because she was known as basically the richest woman in Europe, she was married off, uh, and she didn't want to get married. She was kicking and screaming, and they told her she had to, and later she ended up getting it annulled, thankfully. But she never got married because she finally found one man. She thought this man just was actually truly loved her, but he really did only want her money, so she did not get married to him. And so I don't know whatever happened to her fortune. I've tried to find that information. You have Louise de Savoie, that lovely woman right there. She is the mother of Francois Premier, and we owe this woman a lot of things. She loved and was obsessed with Italian Renaissance, so she brought up Henri and his sister Marguerite in love with art and music, and because of that, he kind of transformed the monarchy by bringing in culture and books and literature and art. And of course, we know him from bringing Leonardo da Vinci, and he was the one who started collecting art that would become the basis of the Louvre. She looks kind of like a stern lady up there, doesn't she? But we're going to head over here now to the other side where I'll show you Marie. You have another woman. This one's a mythological lady. Another favorite. There in the middle. Looks like they just newly mowed. But that beautiful woman is Diane. Diane the Huntress. Did anybody learn that just because of the Princess Diana funeral, like I did when her brother said she was the most hunted woman in the world, but she's named after the Huntress? Never forget it. Think about it every single time. But the original statue version of this is in the Louvre, and it was the very first statue that came into the royal collection under Louis XIV, and he loved it. Look at that view. Is there a better place to sit in the city? I'll fight you for it. I would say no. I would say this is the best. On one of those chairs, looks like you're not usually that's a part of the grass you can actually sit on. It doesn't look like it. It's probably a little damp. We did have rain this morning. The Seine, if you've been watching my riveting eyewitness reporting from Paris on my Instagram stories of the Seine, got up to 4 kilometers over its normal height. And it was supposed to start coming down, but we had a ton of rain yesterday afternoon and all night. And so it'll probably start to come back up a little starting tomorrow because it takes about 2 days. Oh, my boyfriend's playing right now, AC Milan. And so I'm getting drop down notifications that he just got put into the match. In case you guys were more riveting information you needed. So here we are over here. Marie. Marie. Guess what she was born? Same day as Mr. Delacroix, which is the same day as me. She was also born on April 26th. But here she is. 1573 to 1642. She's here overlooking. And what's really great is some of these, you want to go around the back. Just look at all the fleur-de-lis on there. And you see the detail in this light. Wonder when they're going to clean these. But she's here. She gets to overlook her beautiful palace that she had built. Hope you guys are not having all the cold snaps there in the US. But is it nice and light? At least it won't be dark at, 5 o'clock anymore. I guess it was getting later anyway. I can't wait for ours. The US changed theirs years ago. So we change on Easter Sunday. So 3 weeks away, I guess. It's definitely not too busy. It's sunny in Chicago. How great. And not 40s. That's not too bad for Chicago. Look at that. We need to put some plants back in the urns. And hopefully, I think this week's supposed to get warmer. Hopefully, any time now, they should start bringing out the trees. All the trees are supposed to come out. Ugh, 18 degrees and tornadoes? No, thank you. I would say no messing to that. Okay, here's another test for you. She was the mother of the king that would bring the crown of thorns to France. Blanche de Castille. She was a tough cookie, this one. She was very, very religious. She brought her son up, Saint Louis, of course, to be very religious. He then ended up bringing the crown of thorns, and then she married him off. She had to find a woman that would be just perfect for him. That would also be very religious. We'll see her here in a couple statues. And then she was kind of upset because they actually had a really good marriage. They loved each other, which wasn't usually the case when they had to marry the kings off. And Blanche got kind of pushed to the side. But she ended up being the regent at times when Louis the Ninth would go off to crusades when he went to Tunisia. And then he also went there, and that's where he died. And you'll see Margaret de Provence. But I did a whole thing. Oh, the ponies. I did a whole thing in my newsletter a few weeks ago about the crown of thorns, and I have a second part coming up here in a couple weeks about the crown of thorns and art. Look at those Shetland ponies. I had a Shetland pony, but mine was like a calico cat color, which I also had calico cats. And now my hair is a few colors, shades of blonde. So I guess it's just my thing. Well, there's somebody sitting in the way of our other lady here. Anne Duchess, wife of Louis XIII, mother of Louis XIV. She built the beautiful church that's over here, Sainte Sulpice. She had that built along with Val de Grace, which is that dome straight ahead over the statue's head. Beautiful, beautiful church. Only open once a year to go and visit. That's the top of the Pantheon there. Oh, the tulip tree, the mango tree, or the mango tree. That'd be something to see here. Magnolia is over by the statue or the fountain. So I missed it. But we've got some more ground to cover. I should pick up the pace. And de Breton. Marguerite de Provence, wife of wife of Louis the Ninth. She's lovely. She lived about 25 years after he died. And then here, Saint Clotilde, wife of King Clovis. She was the one she was really the bestie of Sainte Genevieve. And it was Clotilde that wrote the stories about Genevieve, and that's how we know the stories of her. Hi, Seth. Yes, I took last weekend off because it was my good friend's birthday, but I do every week. I'm taking the day off on Easter, but every week. So we will do it every Sunday, and it's 4 p.m. from Paris. So right now it's going to be 8 a.m. West, 11 a.m. East until the first Sunday in April. Then it'll go back to 7 a.m. West. It actually seems that the time works out better, even though it's pretty early. And then you could always catch it on YouTube after if you miss it live. Oh, great, Seth. Well, if you want to come and you want to do a tour, reach out to me. You could do it at my email, Claudine at ClaudineHemingway.com. If you want to do a tour, and I do customized private tours. So whatever, if you have something you want to see, I could put it together for you. Tell you all about it. Okay, this one, I've shown this one many times. But of course, here we have my guy again. But look, there's a woman on it. So it's okay. He's up here too. But we have to get cruising. I'm going to get all the way because I have to get home and record for tomorrow's podcast. So tomorrow, hopefully you guys have all listened to Paris History of Rebecca Hemingway on every Monday on the V Creative podcast. We have our 200th episode of History of the Hemingway coming up in a couple weeks. I don't know what I'm going to do for the 200th. So if you guys have some ideas, let me know. But tomorrow I'm also doing, we started it last month, every month until we reopen Notre Dame in December. We are doing one episode about Notre Dame. So the one that's going to be tomorrow is partially new and also partially a replay of one I did 2 years ago about the statues of Notre Dame that you could find in the Architecture Museum. And it is, I went to the exhibit yesterday because they keep updating it. So what's really awesome is as the progress of the construction and the restoration goes on, so they alter it a little bit. So it's really cool. They had some new videos. They had videos with my other love, Philippe Villeneuve, talking. And they had, which they had last year, but they had pieces of the timber, they had pieces of the stone. Really amazing. So they keep updating it, changing it a little bit. The original rooster is there. But we're going to add on to that episode, and that one will be out tomorrow, or actually late tonight. And so I have a bunch of them we're going to do about Notre Dame, including ones about some of the pieces on the inside, the paintings, some of the paintings that are my favorites, the Lemais. We'll do that one in 2 months. Oh, wait. It's always right here. You can smell it. Smells like Daphne. I think it's a verbena. I could always smell it right here, but I don't see it. Oh, I love it. But make sure to check that episode out tomorrow. And if you have an idea of what you think our 200th episode should be about, send me a message. Or pop the message right here in the chat. Oh, this house, this building down here, if I don't get killed, that building straight down there on the right, that is where another fantastic woman that kind of gets a bum rap, or she gets painted as a drunk all the time, Zelda Fitzgerald. She and F. Scott stayed there for a few months. Whenever they would visit Paris, they'd only come and they'd stay here for a few months. A lot of times they'd go down to the south or they'd go back to the US. This is Hemingway lived there. But she was amazing. And you know what? She died on today's date. So she died on March 10th, 1948. So 76 years ago. She died really tragically. She had also had kind of a lot of mental breakdowns. She was in a sanitarium and there was a fire and she was in her room and the fire came up through the elevator shaft and basically burned the residents alive. Horrible. She was amazing though. She was a writer herself, and because a woman couldn't be published, F. Scott would actually take her letters and use them into his books. So he kind of plagiarized a lot. So I don't think there would have been an F. Scott if it wasn't for Zelda. So here on the other side, this is the other side of Palais de Luxembourg. This is the Little Luxembourg, but straight back there behind that ugly little portable unit that they're doing construction is a chapel, and that is the chapel of Marie de Medici. And you could go into here again. It's my favorite thing. I think I mention every weekend is the third weekend of September, which is Patrimoine Days, and that is the only weekend you could go in there. And that little chapel is so cute, and it's just amazing. And I should actually do a newsletter and put all that in there, put the photos in. It's small, but it's just absolutely lovely. So this street here is Rue Savaboni, and that is the name of the architect of the facade of Saint-Sulpice, which is straight ahead. But a woman here that basically, because in France, International Women's Day was International Women's Rights Day, is what they called it here. And this woman kind of did what no other woman had done before for women. Olympe de Gouges. She lived here and she wrote the Declaration of the Rights of Women. She lived right here in this place. So she wrote that on September 14th, 1791. She was married at 17. She was widowed at 19, and she said, yeah, forget that. I'm not getting married again, because at that time, just like with my other favorite, Veuve Clicquot, the woman had more rights as a widow than she did if she got remarried. So as a widow, you could actually earn money. Look at this. I do love some frames. Hi. And so she said, forget this. I'm not getting remarried. And so she was a playwright. She would write plays that were stories of women that only had women actors in it. She was amazing, but she ticked off a few people, and she was killed by the guillotine on November 4th, 1793. So how are we doing on time? We could probably make it. I think we could make it to Route de l'Odéon. A friend of mine lives on this street. Good friend of mine. But look at straight ahead. There's Des. Saint-Sulpice. Pick up the pace a little here. To show you, we'll end up with one last lady. It's also pretty fantastic that we did a podcast on, I think, in the first year of the podcast. One that I adore. Such a beautiful church. Such a beautiful church. But if you follow my Instagram stories, you might have seen that this last week, a week ago tomorrow, I was invited. I love this little courtyard. We picked our way in here one time. To a very amazing fashion show of the official fashion week of Christian Louboutin. It was pretty fun. Who's ready for it to be spring and sunny and warm and lots of flowers and no longer wearing heavy coats? I am ready for that. So we're going to head over here to Rue Saint-Sulpice, which is another few ladies. So down there, if you could see that skinny building kind of in the middle, that is where Miss Betty, and you know, if you've listened to the podcast, that I love some courtesans. Some of these women that decided they did not want to have to get stuck with their three choices of being a wife, a mother, or a nun. So some of them decided to do their own thing. And Miss Betty, and here on Rue Saint-Sulpice, goes right by the church. There was a number of brothels on this street that their specialty was things for the priests of the abbey, because we're right in the middle, in between the Abbey of Saint-Germain-des-Prés and Saint-Sulpice. But you know, I mean, if you've ever seen the classic Dolly Parton movie, The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, you know, girls gotta work. More tearing the streets up. Okay. And on this street, this block, you had three brothels. But one day, I was walking by and getting a tour by Miss Betty's down there, and the guy walked out. I was talking about, and the guy walked out and said he lived in one of the apartments. His apartment was one of the attached to the brothel. I was like, can we come inside? And he is walking out. All right, we're going to go. We'll show you up one street. We're actually going to end at another street. And I know I haven't shown this address. And it is an address that everybody, pretty much ever, when they write about this place, gets wrong. But I'll show you, and then you guys know, but I'm sure you already know, as a faithful follower and reader, and if you listened to the episode about Silvia Beach, did I give it away? That I did, I guess probably 3 years ago now, you will know. So, Silvia, of course, is known for Shakespeare and Company. And so Silvia moved to Paris 1917. She came up here to Rue de l'Odéon. she went into a store and met a woman, Adrienne Monnier, and then she decided, I'm going to go back to the US, to New Jersey, and I'm going to open my own bookstore. And then her parents said, no, stay there. We'll send you some money. The money will go farther. So she opened a bookstore. She opened that bookstore, not on Rue de l'Odeon. At first, it was on this street, Rue Dupuytren. And on Rue Dupuytren, over here, November 19th, 1919, the very first Shakespeare & Company opened right there where the Good Joe is. Then, in May 1921, she moved over to Rue de l'Odeon because Adrienne was watching across the street at number 12 Rue de l'Odeon. Also, this is one of the greatest doors in all of Paris. But Adrienne had seen the people at the antique store packing up. So she went over there and said, hey, guys, what's going on? They said, we're leaving. So she told Sylvia, come over here. You got to move over here. So she did. Number 12, Rue de l'Odeon, which is a street right around the corner. And it was there. And she had that store until middle of World War II. And then she had to close it. So this, if you are here, this is the greatest intersection in all of Paris, the Carrefour de l'Odeon, which you have some of the greatest restaurants. But you also have my friend Zoe. This is her wonderful boutique where she designs everything. And she also creates t-shirts with names of books. The only English book she has on a t-shirt is Perrier une Fête, which is a movable feast. All the other books are French, but it's a fantastic store. And then you have Les Editeurs. You have everything over here. All right, guys, look, we did it. Pretty much exactly an hour. And that was just some of the amazing ladies of Paris. I'll turn around and say hi because I do have the best backdrop there is. It's red. So thank you guys so much for this. Joining me today, and thank you so much for your support. It is we should all be empowering and lifting women up and not being mean and trying to destroy them. So that is what you would be doing. So everybody do your best and just be nice to each other. That is just my message of the weekend. So thank you guys so much. And don't forget, join me next week and check out the podcast tomorrow and learn a little bit more about my other favorite place, Notre Dame. And then I'll be here again next Sunday. Find something else. If you guys have something you really want to see or you want me to share here in Paris, let me know. Send me a message. And I would love to add it into the little list of places to go visit. So I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Check out the Facebook. Make sure you subscribe and get my newsletter for even more things. And if you are on my Patreon, that is where I announce the walk first. So join me on Patreon. But thank you guys so much. And I hope you have a great Sunday. And don't get to, oh, hi, Debbie. I know I didn't walk by. Maybe next week we should plan that even though we were just here. Maybe before you guys leave, we should do that. Maybe we'll do it from your window. How about that? All right. Thank you guys so much and have a wonderful week.